1961 Greenwich Village, a Fable. As there's only a few of us here, I can give you some spoiler alerts about the book, but don't tell anybody what happens. It's like a little tweaky thing happens that flips the whole book. But I'm going to tell you what that is. The book is set in 1961 in Greenwich Village. It's narrated by, coincidentally, an Englishman who isn't me. He's an 82-year-old Englishman who is writing an email to his friends about something that happened in the village in 61. A very curious thing. Briefly, this is a spoiler alert, what it is, he goes there and meets a really nice girl called Jennifer. And they hook up very, very passionately and they get each other immediately. And he goes to an art gallery with her where he meets this guy called Damien. Jen is black, Damien is black. Damien is a womanizer of big proportions. And he fancies Jen. And Jack, the narrator, doesn't like that very much. Damien is an artist, an abstract artist who they say or decide at his gallery showing just does squiggles, and these squiggles mean a lot to him. They explain his passion, his life, but it's all bullshit. He's a bullshit. The bit I'm going to read, you will find out what happens when Jack meets Damien. But there's another bit, and this is the spoiler. When Jack goes in to buy paints to try and copy Damien's kind of painting, because he thinks he can paint. If this idiot can paint, anyone can paint. So he goes in and gets a load of paints from a Frenchman who runs a art shop in the village. And in the corner there's a little man just drawing, sketching away. And we find in the book that it's his brother, and they have a history of animosity. So the art shop, his name is Henri, actually has a thing over Boris, his brother, and Boris scuttles around and does anything that Henri wants. But he just sits and draws. And the thing about his drawings, you look at the drawing, Boris's drawings of a person, you get to feel what that person is like. And if, for example, Boris drew you, we would look at the drawing and know exactly what you think, where you come from. Like, for example, you might come from South America, it would all be in the picture, in his little drawings. So, he says, I want you to draw my girlfriend, because your drawings are so fantastic. So let me read you, I'm going to read you three portions, very short portions. Firstly, when Jack meets Boris with his girlfriend Jennifer in a bar in the village, so Boris can see what Jen looks like, so he can go away and draw her. This is the first bit. When they go into the bar. So Jennifer and I arrived at 6:40, and Boris was already there at the table with 3 glasses of red wine carefully positioned in front of each chair. I had not told Jennifer very much about him, just that he sorted my canvases out for me, and this rendezvous was by way of thanking him. He jumped up when he saw us come in, repositioned our wine glasses, shook hands with me, and kissed Jennifer on both cheeks, all at the same time, it appeared to me. Jennifer, may I present my friend Boris? I said formally. It's a pleasure to meet you, Boris, she said kindly. She gave me a curious glance as if to say, friend, and then thanked him for our wine. My pleasure, he said. Monsieur, Ezra was very kind to invite me, and I was early, so I took the impertinence of buying wine for all of us. There is no import of buying wine for us, Boris, I said, taking his tone and curious turn of phrase. I really didn't know why I did this. Jennifer looked at me oddly again. I could see she had questions she was desperate to ask me. What is your business, Mademoiselle Jennifer? Boris inquired. Forgive perhaps my discourtesy. Oh no discourtesy at all. I'm a secretary and PA to Morris Brillstein, the art critic. Oh, I know of him. How you say, the distinguished man. Yes, he is rather distinguished and highly regarded in his field, Boris, Jennifer said with a laugh. Jen helps him to be even more distinguished by correcting the grammar of his criticisms, I said. That is so true, said Jennifer. He got himself into the biggest tangle today, trying to define Fauvism to a group of artists in a gallery on the Upper West Side. He gave up in the end and just said for them to check out Matisse. She burst into fits of laughter that I could see charmed Boris as much as me. We chatted on for about half an hour over a couple more glasses of wine when Boris suddenly looked up at the clock and jumped up. "Excuse me, I need to take Henri his dinner. À bientôt, my friends." "Please meet us here at the same time tomorrow, Boris, just for 15 minutes, and bring your satchel of work," I requested. "Yes, indeed. Au revoir, my dears." And with that, he scurried out. "Is this going to be a regular thing? Are we now a threesome?" Jennifer inquired. "No, just tomorrow for about 15 minutes, and then it'll just be you and me again. Come up to the studio. I have some things to show you." "Some things? More than one?" she said with arched eyebrows. "They are my art supplies. Now behave, Miss Jennifer," I said as I helped her on with her coat. That's the end of that. So we go now to the following day, and as it says at the beginning of the chapter, same time, same place. We arrived before Boris the following evening. I had our 3 red wine glasses on the table, and Jennifer smiled kindly as she saw Boris enter. "Good evening, Boris. How are you?" I asked formally. Jennifer looked at me curiously. "I am very well. It is nice to see you again, Mademoiselle Jennifer," he said equally formally. "I'm hoping you have seen Jennifer quite a lot since last evening, Boris," I said secretively. "Indeed I have. I have had a wonderful time with her. You are correct. She is a marvelous subject." "Have you been following me?" She turned to me. "Would you mind telling me what is going on?" I could see she was getting quite incensed, so I quickly said to Boris, "Can we see?" He unbuckled his satchel, took out his pad, and opened it in front of himself. He ruffled through it. "They start here," he said. He placed the pad on the table and turned it around to us. The first sketch was of Jennifer with a curious look on her face, the one she had when she first saw Boris the previous evening. On the opposite page was one of her laughing after she had told the faux visit story. He turned the page over, and there were more wonderful drawings of Jennifer, looking radiant, kind, sympathetic, and simply gorgeous. "Well?" I asked her. I had not known Jennifer for that long, admittedly, but in that short time I had never seen her lost for words. She turned the pages back to the first drawing of her and perused them all again. She looked at me with glassy eyes. I thought she was going to cry, but she just stood up, walked around the table, and knelt down beside Boris and hugged him. It was then that she began to sob. It's quite interesting because it's the bit where this guy Damien, who thinks a lot of himself, has his drawing. Jack comes into the bar that Damien invited him to. Damien signaled to me from the bar, "Hey man, over here." I arrived at the Minetta Tavern at 1 p.m. on the dot. Damien was sitting at the bar with a beer in front of him and a small empty glass that I presume held a scotch. The stool next to him had a beer in front of it and a glass of whiskey too. "Are you cool at the bar, or should we get a booth? I'm starving. We can get some lunch later. Hey, this is for you. Scotch and a chaser. I'm already on the chaser." "I'm fine sitting here, Damien. Thanks for the drink. Cheers." "Cheers, man," Damien said with a smile, picked up his beer glass, and I swallowed my shot. "Over here, barman. Fill them up," he called out across the bar. As the barman came over with the bottle, Damien leaned in towards me and whispered, "This lunch is on me. We got off on the wrong foot, and I intend to make amends. Rest assured, I do not have designs on your girlfriend. She's really not my type anyway. Can we put all that aside and behind us?" "How can she not be your type, Damien?" I asked him. "She is female." He looked at me in surprise, studied my face, and clapped me on the back. "Ah, great line. No, she's cute and all, but I go for a more open chick." "Easier, you mean?" "No, man, not easier. Just, simpler, less complicated, more accessible, available, attainable?" I inquired. "Exactly, man, exactly. I knew you and I had a simpatico," he said with conviction. This guy knows nothing about me at all, I was thinking. In fact, he was so self-centered that his awareness of anyone else was minimal, to say the least. I bit the bullet. "So, easier, maybe like Vanessa?" He downed his second shot, called for another, and indicated to me and my shot glass. "I'm cool for now, man," I said. "Another beer then?" I figured I'd better make an effort. "Okay then, thanks." Damien was thinking. "Vanessa was something else. She got under my skin." "You were in love with her then?" I asked him. "Well, no," he retorted. "She was a great lady, but love is..." He He paused, tipped his shot glass into his mouth and called for another. The barman dashed over, filled him up, and held the whiskey bottle over my still full glass. I shook my head dismissively in a style that was very Damien-like, I thought. He continued. Love is for guys like you and your cute little chick. I'm not into that kind of thing. And Sally? I asked him. He chuckled. Sally is my wife, man, he said dismissively. Anyway, to business. I was impressed with your argument. They all sold, right? Well, there were only 6. They all sold, though, right? And you've been commissioned for more? Yes, just one for now. I know. It's from Alexandra Spence. She bought my painting, Deserted. She's a lovely woman and a big collector in our field. Our field, I thought? Who is the fraud here? Me or him? Both of us, I was guessing. What training have you had, Damien? Self-taught, man, he said with pride. It's all instinctive with me. What about you? Same, I guess. You guess? Don't you know? Your spirit radiates from your work. Surely you feel that. Bullshit, I thought. Absolutely, I said. Exactly, David said, tragically. We should work together, you and I. We would be an unbeatable team. We could make a fortune. So that was it. We wanted to team up. I thought quickly and spoke. Perhaps you are right. We have a lot in common in our artwork, but your roving eye doesn't sit well with me. You play a dangerous game, Damien. Oh, that man. You got it all wrong. I presume you are familiar with the teachings of the psychoanalyst Wilhelm Reich. I know of him, but I'm unfamiliar with his teachings, I answered. Well, Reich advocates that men indulge their unfulfilled lust in what he calls mercenary sex, with mistresses, prostitutes, or other women that may catch his eye. I take a room in the Albert Hotel specifically to follow his doctrine. I see. And Sally, is she aware of your peccadilloes? If I'm happy, then she's happy. Sally leads a quiet life. She doesn't require much. She's not a deep thinker like I am. Perhaps you underestimate her. She seems rather sad and preoccupied when I met her. Oh no, you cannot tell for one meeting. She is perfectly content with her life. She loves me intensely, and I love her in my way. Really, Damien? You know her so well? I do, he smiled. Of course I do. I reached inside my pocket and withdrew Boris's sketch of Sally and placed it in front of Damien. He looked at it for a long, hard moment. What is this? He asked. It's a sketch of your wife, I answered. I know that, he said through gritted teeth. When did she pose for this? You didn't draw it, did you? No, obviously you didn't. This is not her. She doesn't look, she isn't. It's incredible. Absurd. I can't. He tailed off and stared at the sketch, shaking his head. Damien was lost for words, and I just smiled at him. Thank you for your offer, Damien, I said to him, but I don't think a partnership between us would work. He looked up at me quite chastely. His big brown eyes had a sad tinge. You can keep that sketch of Sally. And this one too. I reached into my pocket again and withdrew the sketch Boris had made of him. I put it face down in front of him and placed his shot glass on it. By the time he had removed the glass and turned the sketch over, I had slipped off my stool and was walking to the door. I glanced over my shoulder to see him analysing his likeness. I closed the barroom door softly behind me. Set in 1961, there's a scene in a coffee bar that has a little poets evening. So I figured, okay, split up a site, so we'll have a go. This is the scene. In the coffee evening, Jack, the protagonist, and his girlfriend Jennifer are invited there with a couple called Harlan and Denise, and when they walk in, this is what happens. The guy that's introducing the poetry evening is called Rufus. He starts. My name is Rufus, said a guy in a brown sweater with just one hole in the front. This poem is called What? What? Someone shouted out from the back. Correct, said Rufus. He closed his eyes and began to orate. Baking my dreams, they paste the torment I feel on my walls. It will take forever, or what? I cycle to heaven in my heart, but hold the handlebars for respite. I will get there never, or what? See, I am smiling now. I harassed the devil, befuddled him with jests. I pulled a lever, or what? It's now, or never, or what? This last line, there was a silence after he had finished.
He opened his eyes with a flutter, and some folks in the audience applauded, but most clicked their fingers. Jen was enthusiastic in her applause. Harlan and Denise clicked their fingers. In the corner were a couple of guys in horn-rimmed glasses, ignoring everyone and playing chess. "Take no notice of those two, they're just trying to be cool," said Harlan when he saw me watching them. "Maybe they should have some more holes in their sweaters," I thought. "Thank you, Rufus, man, that was out of sight, so real," said our presenter. "Now we have a chick for you all. Her name is Crystal. She is an Aquarian, and she is my chick." Crystal came up with a tattered piece of paper and said, "Thank you, Dirk. As you know, I write what I feel, and I feel this right now. Distress has left me. My soul is bouncing. Delight has found me. I'm in for a trouncing tonight." She looked up with doe eyes, smiling shyly, and the audience cheered, applauded, and clicked. Even the chess players looked up briefly. Crystal looked delighted, and Dirk strode over and hugged her for an uncomfortably long time. They finally broke away. Crystal sheepishly returned to where she'd been sitting at the front and looked up at Dirk adoringly. "Okay," said Dirk, looking at a tattered piece of paper. "We now have a poem from..." He screwed up his eyes. "Bucktooth?" he asked into the crowd. A voice came back indignantly. "Forsooth, my name is Forsooth." "Sorry, man," apologized Dirk. "A big welcome for Forsooth." He snickered at this for some reason, but steadied himself. "Welcome, man." An unshaven guy in his 40s wearing a brown corduroy jacket with a ripped patch pocket on one side loped up to Dirk, shook his hands, and gently pushed him away. "Greetings, one and all," he proclaimed. "My name is Forsooth. That is with 3 O's. Sooth. S-O-O-T-H. The poem I am going to orate is called Brenel Bastion. There are several words that contain a double O. In my poem, they will be exhibited as a triple O, as in my name, but only the initiated will ascertain as much." He cleared his throat, thrust his head into the air, and began. "Food, a brittle breakfast. Wood, a sufficient source. Booth, a delightful dungeon. Aloof I am, of course." Forsooth carried on in this manner for several verses, and the audience applauded and clicked at the end of each verse. We realized he had finished when he shouted the word "Forsooth" at the top of his voice, raised his arms in the air, and then dropped them dramatically to his side. As so, the evening continued, one poem after the other, one poet after the other. "I've got one," I said, after another half-dozen or so heart-wrenching, soul-searching poets. "Are you a poet?" asked Denise. I smiled. "I could be." I smiled again. "I really could be." "Not tonight, though, I think," said Jennifer acerbically. "Perhaps not. I shall hone my skills a little while longer," I said. "Yes, you do that," said Jennifer. "Stick to painting from now on."